Well, Marakita, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Tell me what's going on with you in your world and what are we doing on this day and what's happening?
I know we talked about this before, but about boundaries and overstepping boundaries.
Well, boundaries are just those things that are revealed to us, right? Like we don't really know that we're out of balance because that's what boundaries are, right? It's just the idea is to get us in balance and we're keepers of the balance. So there's certain things that we do that's too contracted and there are certain things that we do that are just too ambiguous, too loose. So boundaries are just that Goldilocks place. You're looking to try to find that spot where you go, okay, I'm not too contracted and I'm not too loose. And when it is out of bounds, you got to recognize that and just make the adjustment. Do you want to give an example of what you're thinking about with boundaries?
Let's say your husband says he's going to do the dishes every night. And so then he doesn't do them. And every day he says, well, I forgot to do the dishes.
There are a lot of relationships where maybe one person has stepped out on the other individual and they said maybe it wasn't a full out affair, but it could even just be flirting. And then the other person would say, well, you've lost that. I don't trust you anymore. And so you have to like reestablish trust because you can give it generously up front. But then when it's like abused or neglected or just not respected, then you've got some work to do, right? That's the idea of restitution, right? Got to make something right. So if he could recognize that he has been, less than impeccable with his word, then the way to get that right is he works on being more impeccable with his word. And she, on her end, would have to be holding him accountable that he's a little more, not perfect, but a little more impeccable with his word. And if he is showing improvement in that regard, then she's got to recognize that he's showing improvement. And when he messes up again, it can't be like all is lost. It's got to be like, oh, still working on being impeccable with your word. You did really well a bunch of times, and now you just dropped the ball here. But you know what? I'm not going to get my panties in the wad because you're showing signs of improvements. How's that?
What if it's just continual then?
I would realize that that's what he is. I mean, that's it. If that's who he is, then I'd have to accept that this is the best that he's going to do right now. He doesn't have enough motivation, inspiration, whatever. He doesn't have enough of a payoff for him to go beyond his well-worn ways, his recursive ways, his habituations. And it's a values choice. He's not really working on it. It's not important to him. That's where working with him, like, if he can understand if it's important to you, it's important to me, where he can make it a priority, great. If he can't make it a priority and you can see that he can't, and maybe you might think he can, but he's just unwilling. I don't really care what language you use. If you're not seeing signs of him changing at all, you have to learn to accept that and go, it's like it's raining and you accept that it's raining, then you grab the umbrella. And so she's going to have to accept that this is the way he is and start changing strategies and stop talking to him as if, he's going to listen or he's going to be true to his word or that he's actually going to follow through. There's a level of acceptance, and then she can decide whether or not she wants to stay married to him or in the relationship she is with him. And, all of this is TBR, to be revealed. And until she does her next move, and then sees how he responds, she doesn't know how this is going to play out. But she's got to do the next move. I hope that
What would the next
helps.
move be?
Well, again, just we're talking about like being impeccable with your word, having the conversation about if it's important to you, it's important to me. I mean, everything that I had just said. I mean, she'd have to apply these things. They can't just be concepts or ideas or words. She would have to, enhance her ability to communicate with where he truly is right now and communicate effectively what he's able to do and what he's unable to do. Now, she might think, well, he's able, he's just unwilling. Now I'm repeating myself, but if you want me, I guess you're asking me to, so I'll repeat myself. So, are you unwilling to do these things or are you unable to do these things? These kinds of conversations, and if he's unwilling to have the conversation or nothing changes, then she has to accept that nothing changes and now it's back on her. Does she stay in this marriage with the newer awareness of what this marriage now constitutes, like the integrity of their relationship, what it is? Does she choose to remain in that marriage in its purest form, the way it is right now? Not if it changes, but the way it is, knowing how negotiable he is or isn't. And then she makes those choices from there, and if she's going to stay the course, then, and she knows she's not going to leave, then she's going to have to get even more finesseful in how she speaks with him and more invested in finding solutions without being attached that he's going to positively respond. Does that help?
Yes.
Well, that's important. This is important stuff that we're talking about here.
I mean, people always ask me about boundaries and how to handle that.
Well, boundaries are one of those things, like you're allowed to have a boundary. There's nothing wrong with having boundaries. Actually, they're necessary, but it's the way that you enforce them that really makes a big difference. Like if she's going to get her panties in a wad every time he steps beyond a boundary, probably not going to be helpful, right? But if she can communicate effectively without having to get all triggered herself or feeling defeatist, have a defeatist mindset, then she'll probably do better because she'll learn how to communicate in a more loving, effective way.
Perfect.
Do you want to come up with a even more intense example than that, or do you want to give it?
I joined these groups. My teacher said to join groups.
Okay.
People that are hurting and give advice. Not advice, but here's some solutions, maybe. And then a lot of them are saying, "Oh, my boyfriend is looking at pictures of these women," and another one was saying, when after we started dating, is it okay to ask him to take the pictures down off of the social media of his ex?
Wow. I don't know if that's ever appropriate. It's his ex.
Anyway, that was an interesting question.
Look, if she feels that way, there's nothing wrong with her sharing it, but it's when she's attached to it, if she really believes that he doesn't do it, is a reflection that he doesn't love her or he doesn't care about her. Now, he might do it just because it's important to her, and I don't know if that's a victory. I'll be honest with you. The fact that she can get him to do something like that, and the fact that he would do something like that, and she's going, well, good, that needed to be done, and that kind of energy, as opposed to her being confident in the fact that, well, she's in his past. I mean, like, now for me, I've had my wife pass away, so I don't want to remove my past. So my current wife has to deal with the fact that I've had a past. So that might make it easier for her because my wife has passed, I guess, but I'm not going to forget my past. As a matter of fact, I want to relive it as much as possible and learn from it. I think I'm a better husband today because of it, So if his ex relationship doesn't make him a better person, then, shame on him. He's they say if you don't learn from the past, you're bound to repeat it. I love that. And the past should not be a threat to her because she's got a past, he's got a past. The more that she allows that to be an issue or creates that this is this is really a thing. I'm supposed to fight for this. Like, I've got the truth on my side. Take your ex off the page, which is true on one level. There are a lot of people who would advocate for that and say that that is definitely a deal breaker. For instance, you got to get on with your life. And it's like, I wish that any one person who held a perspective really did own the totality of truth, but it's just an aspect of truth. It's true that it might be on one level inappropriate. It's also true that it would be great for you if it wasn't a threat and that it was just in the past. So you can do your work and not make such a burdensome request on the person you so-called love and do your work. Or you can just go, nope, I'm just going to hang on to the truth that this is absolutely inappropriate and you need to remove it and I'm not negotiable and you're the problem and I'm not negotiable and you're the problem and I'm not negotiable. Like, okay, got it. Yep, I'm the problem and you're not negotiable. Got it.
Well, it's been interesting because a lot of these people are really putting up with, they'll post this stuff about, long posts about what should I do, and here's this, him talking to the ex and him looking at Um,
I'm going to interrupt you right away because I already got it. What you're saying. The assumption is that number one, what he's doing is wrong. Or number two, they're a victim in this situation, that this is something that they're doing to them. Like it's a reflection of their lack of concern or compassion or understanding, whatever. And it's really just not about them. It's just him being him. And, they're focusing on this is an offense, this is a hit against my character. This is something you're not really holding me out, and again, multiple truths. It's not that those things aren't true. It's like, what are you doing playing that card all the time? I mean,
it's exhausting to read those
it is. Well,
posts.
because it's all victimy. It's always like, hey, this is where I'm being wronged, or this is what's happening.
And why would you stay if you're being so wronged?
Because very few people would be with you. If that's the way the reason why you'd stay if you're being wronged is because you have learned through your experience that very few people are willing to put up with you. And so you're willing to put up with being wronged, though you're not going to really work on your stuff that makes you so unattractive that you're ready to throw yourself back into the sea. Plenty of fish in the sea. Well, why don't you go out there and be a fish and see how much interest you get? And then as you're romancing somebody else, see if you're going to let this side of you out, or if you're going to pull within. You're not going to show your quote unquote true colors, being so fault finding and problem seeking, and then constantly letting you know that your partner who you supposedly love is just a major disappointment because they're doing this and now they're doing this and now they're doing, and I'm a victim here and this is a problem here. And it's like, and you're calling this love, where you hold all these standards that you have, that people have to meet your standards, and it's a boundary and it's non-negotiable, and yet you have no standards on how you're going to treat somebody or accept somebody else who you're entering a relationship with, who clearly is as imperfect as you are, except you're having a major problem with his expressions of imperfection, and you're letting all of yours go as a free pass. It's amazing how you do that. Like, you're so accepting, unconditionally accepting and loving and caring about all of your faults and imperfections and criticisms, and yet you're so quick to criticize somebody you supposedly are committed to love.
Well, I think that's a lot to think about, and it gives me, um, a plethora of new ideas to really give a lot of time, a lot of thought to, that I hadn't had for myself. So I'm going to spend the afternoon thinking about that and writing down the ways, that everything you said could develop, in someone's life, and how I can carry them to a greater perspective and mindset, which will lead to better relationships.
Oh, that's beautiful. And again, I think in this case, we all have a tendency of being more critical with our significant other, and giving ourselves a free pass in how we relate to our significant others. And yet, we're pretty hard on ourselves at other things. Not other things, we're so hard on ourselves where we'll beat ourselves up. But yet, when it comes to our significant others, we're sometimes not getting honest that we're being too critical or more unreasonable, or and it's not to say that there isn't a place for boundaries and that you shouldn't speak your mind, but it's like, make sure it's a two-way road, that you're not just holding a certain standard that your supposed lover has to hit, but you don't have any standards that you have to hit for yourself regarding what the experience is like for him in being in relationship with you, or her. It goes both ways. So relationships are very, very messy, but that's what also makes them very valuable. So if you are courageous enough to be in a messy relationship, wow, you've got the greatest, unbelievable source of support, because you're either doing the work for real and you're getting the benefit, or it stays messy. Well, Marikit, I enjoyed this. Till next time, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.